I was telling the Chris Salcedo radio show today that I was struggling to find a way to tie together the next round of pain and destruction the Democrats have teed up for the United States. Then it hit me. The U.S. government versus we, the people. We detail how you're being forced to fund the very policies hurting you and your family in today's preamble. Let's begin with the debt ceiling. House Republicans have been the only people working on this to pass legislation within the law to help the American people. The conservatives in the House passed bipartisan legislation that would pair a $1.5 trillion increase in the debt ceiling with $4.8 trillion in spending cuts. Joe Biden and the Senate have refused to go to work, insisting on a so-called clean debt ceiling increase. Biden's new brain came up with this lame and easily eviscerated analogy yesterday.
If you buy a car, you are expected to pay the monthly payments. If you buy a home, you are expected to pay the mortgage every month. That is the spending that you put forth or spending that you may have done before, and now you're paying it every month. If you do not pay your car payment, if you do not pay your mortgage payment, then your credit is going to be bad. It's going to hurt your credit. So let's look at Congress for a second. This is spending that they've already done. They've already spent.
Okay. She's right about one thing. This is money Congress has agreed to already spend. She lied by omission. Well, one of the facts was that all the money, especially the China virus money, has not been spent yet. Government should not be allowed to keep that money in a slush fund. It should be returned to our taxpayers. Also, to carry out Karine Jean-Pierre's analogy, if you buy a house, it doesn't follow that you get to continue to spend the way you did before you bought the house. To make your budget balance, you and I have to cut back on other spending so we can afford our chosen priorities, in this case, a house. Congress and the White House pretend that they are not hampered by this same economic principle. In Joe Biden's Democrat crazy world, everybody in government gets to spend whatever the hell they want. Always more money than government is given by we, the taxpayers. No restrictions, no grown-ups, no restraint.
I mean, we've been very clear. There shouldn't be negotiations on the debt limit. This is something that they should get to regular order and get to work on. We should not have House Republicans manufacturing a crisis on something that has been done 78 times since 1960. This is their constitutional duty. Congress must act. That's what the president's going to make very clear with the leaders tomorrow. Congress must avoid default without conditions.
Yeah, debt ceiling. It's a little thing we call the law, Karine Jean-Pierre. As you just heard, Biden's new brain there says that the debt ceiling, one of the few remaining pro-American taxpayer provisions left in our government, it must be passed with no restrictions on government's absurd and un-American spending. The Congress, under left-wingers like Schumer, Pelosi, and McConnell, have abandoned their duty under the law in passing budgets. That's also part of the law. Continuing resolutions and omnibus spending bills are not budgets. Our debt is reflective of this gross and incompetent practice. Right now, our people have been put into debt by childish politicians to the tune of $32 trillion. That's 120% of our GDP. That works out to be $10,750 per citizen. That's what you, your spouse, and your children are on the hook for. Now, as far as the debt ceiling, where it is true that lawmakers have raised the debt ceiling 29 times since 1978, what's not true is the idea that the standard is a clean debt ceiling. That is a lie, a bald-faced lie. Since 1978, Congress has paired with its debt ceiling hikes other legislation 32 times. So to carry out the analogy, when the House GOP members pay for Karine Jean-Pierre's and the Democrats' lavish new house, it is 100% consistent with the law to make sure our spending is pared down so the nation can afford their brand new house. Spending on every whim of the Congress and leftists in the White House is fiscally irresponsible and dangerous. Dangerous because whoever is running Joe Biden refuses to recognize the constitutional role of the House. The House has the power of the purse. The fact that Marxists are pushing Joe Biden to default rather than acknowledge and work within the constitutional framework is setting up a scenario where the full faith and credit of the United States is flushed down the toilet. Even though I believe that this level of destruction is long sought and supported by leftists in and out of the White House, it is my duty to tell you it would be catastrophic for Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer to continue their lazy, do-nothing attitudes by refusing to come to an agreement with the House, a House that is performing its duty under the Constitution. Many of you might be asking, what's the tie-in with the border crises that Democrats are set to unleash on America again? For that answer, we have to go back to December, when 18 of the Senate GOP, led by Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell, stabbed every American and the incoming House majority in the back by colluding with socialist Democrats to pass the fake budget, the $1.7 trillion omnibus bill. After 2 years of reckless and lawless border policies that have led to, well, an estimated 6.5 million illegal aliens granted access to the United States, 1.3 million known gotaways, over 100,000 deaths courtesy of China's poison fentanyl, and devastation to mostly Hispanic border towns. 18 Senate Republicans voted to fully fund the next phase of Joe Biden's open border plans, the elimination of Title 42. Texas Governor Greg Abbott detailing what's coming our way.
President Biden is laying down a welcome mat to people across the entire world, saying that the United States border is wide open and it would lead to an incredible amount of people coming across the border illegally. President Biden's open border policies is going to cause a catastrophic disaster in the United States. According to the Biden administration itself, they anticipate about 13,000 people coming across the border illegally every single day.
Well, that's not to mention all the illegal guns, all the illegal drugs, and other national security threats. On the illegal alien surge, we did some math. That's roughly another 9 million more illegal aliens by the time Joe Biden's first, and praise God, his last term ends. Add that to the over 6.5 million illegal aliens the Democrats have already allowed to get into our country, and we're looking at a disastrous 15 million illegal aliens in America after just 4 years. And they have to be fed, clothed, their kids educated because of a stupid Supreme Court decision called Plyler versus Doe. And who's going to pay for all of that? You, the American taxpayer. Joe Biden says that's cool with him. He's going to raise your taxes. And Mitch McConnell and senators like John Cornyn are going to trip all over themselves, as well as other Senate GOP betrayers. They will trip all over themselves to make sure all of you pay up. Or to the point, your great-grandchildren are saddled with more unrepayable debt. And if the debt gets so large that all of our money has to go to pay interest on that debt, with all those rising interest rates out there, with all of this spending, that specter is lurking. Once the bulk of our money goes to interest, what happens to defense spending? What happens to legitimate spending the government must do? To you leftists out there, what happens to your beloved entitlement programs? To continue to raise the debt ceiling without addressing spending will lead to the very catastrophe that will happen if Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer choose to default on our national debt. One final thing about the debt: tax cuts. You're going to hear anti-American leftists claim that the 2017 Trump tax cuts caused the debt to spike. From AOC to Karine Jean-Pierre, they insist that allowing all of you Americans to keep more of your hard-earned money, that's what adds to the debt. Their premise is stupid. It suggests whatever government says we need to spend money on, that's what we must spend money on. It's the attitude of an immature adolescent. Most Democrats have this attitude, and some Republicans. Folks, it is impossible for tax cuts to cause debt and deficits. Only spending more money than you have causes debt and deficits. If the American people say the government should have less, as we did in 2017, the government should have to operate within that budget, or all of you shrubs in government, you can quit if you can't do the job. The solution is not, and never will be, spend whatever government wants to anyway. So, what the debt crises and the border crises all have in common? Feckless, irresponsible, and self-serving politicians. Only we, the people, like you folks in Kentucky and we Texans, can remedy things like that.